The moment of abortion represents a turning point in the spiritual cosmos, where a soul prepared for its earthly journey finds itself facing an abrupt change of destiny. Edgar Cayce revealed that this interruption does not signify the end of the existence of consciousness, but rather a profound alteration in the original plan of incarnation. The soul, which had already established vibratory connections with the developing physical body, experiences an energetic shock that reverberates through all dimensions of its existence. This moment marks not only the end of a possibility of physical life, but also the beginning of a new phase of spiritual learning, where the soul must process and understand the circumstances that led to this change of course. The soul's experience after abortion transcends any comparison with the physical suffering we know. Cayce described this condition as a state of spiritual suspension, where the consciousness remains in a kind of emotional limbo, experiencing a profound frustration that echoes through its essence. This pain has no material characteristics, but manifests as an incompleteness that permeates the entire spiritual being, creating waves of sadness that propagate through the subtle dimensions. The soul feels as if it has been deprived of a fundamental opportunity for growth and experience, generating an existential void that demands attention and spiritual care. This invisible suffering requires the intervention of beings of light specialized in welcoming consciousnesses in transition, offering the necessary support so the soul can process this traumatic experience. The process of spiritual healing for these souls involves the delicate work of rebuilding trust in the divine plan, and the understanding that this interruption is part of a greater purpose that cannot yet be fully understood. The intensity of this spiritual pain varies according to the soul's level of preparation for incarnation. Some consciousnesses closer to birth experience a more severe rupture, while others, still in the early stages of connection with the physical body, experience a smoother transition. Cayce observed that this difference in the intensity of suffering is directly related to the level of emotional and energetic investment the soul had placed in the prospect of earthly life. More spiritually advanced souls are able to process this experience with greater understanding and acceptance, recognizing that there are greater forces at work in the universe. However, even these more evolved consciousnesses require a period of adjustment and understanding, where they are supported by spiritual mentors who assist them in integrating this experience into their evolutionary journey. Pain, though real and profound, eventually becomes a source of wisdom and compassion that enriches the soul's spiritual character. This state of spiritual frustration also generates waves of energy that propagate through the astral plane, affecting not only the soul directly involved, but also creating disturbances in the family's energy field. The interrupted consciousness emits signals of distress that can be perceived by sensitive individuals, manifesting as feelings of inexplicable sadness, profound melancholy, or even disturbing dreams. Cayce explained that these energetic emanations are the soul's desperate attempts to communicate and seek understanding for its situation. The spiritual universe responds to these calls through various support mechanisms, including the mobilization of guides specialized in spiritual trauma and the creation of astral environments for healing and recovery. This network of spiritual support demonstrates the infinite compassion that permeates the higher dimensions, where no soul is left to suffer alone. Pain, therefore, becomes a catalyst for the mobilization of spiritual resources that eventually lead the soul to a state of greater understanding and acceptance of its journey. The unique nature of this spiritual suffering lies in the fact that it cannot be alleviated through conventional or material means. The soul must undergo an internal process of acceptance and understanding that involves reviewing its reincarnation plans and reorganizing its evolutionary priorities. Cayce emphasized that this experience, however painful it may initially be, holds immense transformative potential, capable of accelerating the spiritual development of the consciousness involved. Initial frustration gradually transforms into wisdom as the soul understands the complex karmic interconnections that resulted in this situation. This process of transmuting pain into knowledge is facilitated by the constant presence of spiritual mentors who offer broader perspectives on the purpose and meaning of the lived experience. The soul learns that its journey has not been interrupted, but rather redirected onto a different path of growth and spiritual evolution. Welcoming these wounded souls requires a specialized approach that takes into account the specific nature of their trauma. The beings of light responsible for this care possess profound knowledge of the dynamics of incarnation and the emotional complexities involved in interrupting this process. They create astral environments specially designed to promote healing and recovery, where souls can express their pain and frustration without judgment or pressure. Cayce described these spaces as true spiritual hospitals, equipped with all the necessary tools to restore the emotional and spiritual balance of traumatized consciousnesses. Treatment involves not only relieving immediate pain, but also preparing the soul for future incarnation opportunities, ensuring that the traumatic experience is constructively integrated into its evolution. This holistic approach demonstrates the sophistication and compassion of the spiritual support system that surrounds all souls on their journey through the dimensions. The soul's recovery after this traumatic experience does not follow a linear timetable as we know it on the physical plane. Spiritual time operates according to different laws, where healing occurs in progressive layers of understanding and acceptance. Cayce observed that some souls can process this experience quickly, while others require longer periods of support and guidance. This variation is related not only to the evolutionary level of consciousness, but also to the specific circumstances that led to the abortion and how the soul interprets this experience within the context of its larger journey. Spiritual mentors tailor their therapeutic approach to each soul's individual needs, offering exactly the type of support that will be most effective in promoting healing. During this process, the soul gradually rebuilds its trust in life and the divine plan, preparing itself to embrace new opportunities for growth and experience. The energetic connection established between mother and child during gestation transcends the limits of the physical body, creating subtle channels of communication that persist even after the pregnancy is terminated. Cayce revealed that these spiritual cords are not easily severed, maintaining a constant flow of emotional and psychic energy between the two consciousnesses involved. The mother, often without fully understanding what she is experiencing, becomes a recipient of the emanations of pain and confusion from the interrupted soul, manifesting symptoms that can include unexplained anxiety, deep depression, and feelings of emptiness that seem to have no identifiable origin. This involuntary energetic exchange creates a cycle of mutual suffering, where the soul's pain intensifies the mother's suffering, which in turn amplifies the disturbances in the energetic field of the consciousness prevented from being born. This phenomenon represents one of the most complex and delicate connections in the spiritual universe, requiring understanding and conscious intervention to be properly treated. The intensity of this vibratory resonance varies significantly depending on several factors, including the mother's level of psychic sensitivity, the degree of development of the emotional connection during pregnancy, and the specific circumstances that led to the decision to abort. Women who are naturally more sensitive to the spiritual plane tend to experience more intense disturbances, perceiving more acutely the soul's attempts at interrupted communication. Cayce observed that this heightened sensitivity, while it may cause initial distress, also offers unique opportunities for communication and eventual reconciliation with the involved consciousness. Manifestations of this energetic weight can include vivid and recurring dreams, unexplained physical sensations, sudden mood swings, and a persistent melancholy that seems to arise without apparent cause. These experiences should not be interpreted as signs of divine punishment, but rather as indications that there is active communication taking place on the subtle planes of existence. The psychological impact of this persistent energetic connection can manifest itself in surprisingly varied ways in the mother's life. Some women report a constant feeling of incompleteness, as if something fundamental is missing from their lives, without being able to pinpoint what it is. Others experience episodes of profound sadness that arise without warning, often accompanied by inexplicable tears that seem to spring from an unknown emotional source. Cayce explained that these manifestations are direct reflections of the emotional state of the interrupted soul, which desperately seeks to establish contact and communication with the mother. The unborn consciousness often attempts to convey messages of love, forgiveness, or even requests for understanding, using the energetic channels already established during pregnancy. This subtle communication can be perceived as sudden intuitions, emotional insights, or even through symbols and synchronicities that appear in the woman's daily life. The nature of this energetic exchange can also influence the mother's family and social relationships, creating ripples of disturbance that extend beyond her individual experience. Partners, children, and other family members may notice subtle changes in the woman's behavior and emotional energy, even without fully understanding the source of these changes. Cayce emphasized that the family energy field functions as an interconnected network, where disturbances experienced by one member inevitably affect all other components of the system. Children, especially those with greater spiritual sensitivity, may exhibit unusual behaviors or verbalize perceptions of the presence of someone who should be there, reflecting their natural ability to perceive presences in the astral plane. These family phenomena serve as further confirmation of the reality of persistent spiritual connection and the need to approach this situation with seriousness and spiritual understanding. The healing process for the mother involves not only recognizing the existence of this energetic connection, but also developing conscious strategies to transform this connection into a source of mutual spiritual growth. Cayce suggested that meditation practices, sincere prayer and conscious communication with the interrupted soul could facilitate a more harmonious transition for both consciousnesses involved. The mother can learn to channel the energy of sadness and guilt toward feelings of love, understanding, and eventual forgiveness, creating an energetic environment more conducive to spiritual healing. This process requires time, patience, and often the support of understanding people who can offer appropriate spiritual guidance. The transformation of pain into wisdom represents one of the most beautiful and redemptive aspects of this healing journey, demonstrating the human capacity to find meaning and growth even in life's most challenging experiences. Complete resolution of this energetic dynamic often requires an approach that integrates both the mother's emotional healing and the spiritual support of the interrupted soul. Cayce described rituals of communication and reconciliation that allowed the two consciousnesses to establish a direct dialogue, facilitating the expression of pent-up feelings and the search for mutual understanding. These spiritual practices create opportunities for the mother to express her love, regret, or any other feeling that needs to be communicated, while the soul receives the validation and recognition it seeks. The goal is not to completely eliminate the connection, but rather to transform it from a source of suffering into a channel of love and spiritual growth that benefits both parties involved. This transformation represents one of the highest forms of spiritual alchemy, where pain is transmuted into wisdom and suffering is converted into compassion. The law of karma operates as a perfect system of universal balance, where every action generates consequences that eventually return to their source, creating infinite opportunities for learning and spiritual evolution. In the context of abortion, Cayce revealed that this experience rarely happens by chance, but rather as a result of complex karmic interactions that may have their origins in past lives or in choices made on the spiritual plane before the current incarnation. The decision to terminate a pregnancy can represent both the fulfillment of an old karmic debt and the creation of new evolutionary challenges that will need to be faced in the future. This perspective does not imply moral judgment, but rather the recognition that all human experiences are intertwined in a cosmic tapestry of cause and effect that transcends our linear understanding of time. Karma seeks not to punish, but to educate, offering each soul precisely the experiences necessary for its growth and spiritual development. The complexity of the karmic relationships involved in abortion can extend across multiple incarnations, involving not only the mother and the interrupted soul, but also other consciousnesses that are part of the spiritual family group. Cayce explained that some abortion situations represent opportunities for old souls to resolve conflicts or disagreements that have persisted through multiple lifetimes, using the emotional intensity of this experience as a catalyst for transformation and forgiveness. In some cases, the soul seeking to incarnate may have caused similar suffering to the current mother in previous existences, creating a dynamic where both consciousnesses have the opportunity to experience both sides of the same situation. This reversal of karmic roles fosters a deeper understanding of the nature of suffering and the importance of compassion, allowing both souls to develop spiritual qualities that could not be cultivated otherwise. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, orchestrates these experiences to maximize the growth potential for all consciousnesses involved. The karmic responsibility associated with abortion should not be interpreted as guilt or punishment, but rather as a sacred opportunity for spiritual development that requires courage, understanding, and eventual acceptance. Cayce emphasized that each soul involved in this situation has free will to determine how to respond to the challenge presented, choosing between growth through conscious acceptance or prolonging suffering through resistance and denial. The mother facing this decision is being invited to explore deep aspects of her spiritual nature, including her capacity to make difficult decisions, her ability to cope with intense emotional consequences, and her willingness to take responsibility for her choices. This experience can significantly accelerate her spiritual evolution, forcing her to develop qualities such as courage, wisdom, and discernment that may not have been cultivated under easier circumstances. The terminated soul also actively participates in this learning process, developing her own understanding of patience, acceptance, and the impermanent nature of earthly opportunities. The karmic ramifications of abortion often extend beyond the two consciousnesses directly involved, affecting partners, family members, and even future generations through energetic patterns that perpetuate over time. Cayce observed that decisions made in moments of spiritual crisis create ripples of energy that reverberate through the karmic family network, offering opportunities for growth for all members of the group. Parents who support or oppose the decision also participate in the collective learning process, being challenged to examine their own beliefs, values, and ability to offer unconditional love in difficult circumstances. Future siblings may be influenced by the energetic patterns established during this experience, inheriting both the blessings and the challenges generated by their parents' choices. This expanded perspective on karmic impact demonstrates how our individual actions are inextricably linked to the well-being and evolution of our larger spiritual community. The karmic resolution process related to abortion requires a conscious and deliberate approach that includes honest self-reflection, acceptance of personal responsibility, and eventual forgiveness for both oneself and all others involved in the situation. Cayce suggested that an intellectual understanding of karmic dynamics, while important, must be complemented by deep emotional and spiritual work that allows for the true integration of these lessons into the soul's consciousness. This process can include contemplative meditation practices, where the person examines their deepest motivations and seeks to understand the factors that contributed to their decision. Rituals of spiritual communication with the interrupted soul can facilitate the expression of pent-up feelings and the search for mutual understanding, creating opportunities for both consciousnesses to find peace and resolution. The karmic healing journey does not follow a predetermined timetable, but unfolds naturally, as each soul develops the spiritual maturity necessary to fully embrace the lessons offered by their experience. The karmic perspective on abortion also offers a broader understanding of the nature of life and death, revealing that spiritual existence transcends the limitations of physical experience. Cayce taught that the soul cannot be destroyed or nullified through human actions, but only redirected into different paths of expression and growth. This understanding can offer great solace to mothers struggling with feelings of guilt or regret, helping them recognize that their decision did not eliminate a life, but rather altered how that life would manifest. The interrupted soul continues its evolutionary journey through different avenues, potentially finding even greater opportunities for spiritual growth and service. This perspective does not minimize the seriousness of the decision or its emotional consequences, but offers a broader context that can facilitate the process of healing and eventual reconciliation with choices made during times of crisis and uncertainty. The cyclical nature of spiritual life manifests itself in an extraordinarily moving way through the reunions between souls whose first attempt at earthly connection was interrupted by abortion. Cayce revealed that these souls maintain a magnetic attraction that transcends the barriers of time and space, creating situations where destiny seems to conspire to reunite the mother and the soul that was unable to be born at the first opportunity. This phenomenon does not happen by chance, but rather as a result of deep spiritual forces that recognize the need to complete connections important for the evolution of both consciousnesses involved. The interrupted soul carries within itself a vibrational memory of the previous experience, maintaining its determination to establish the earthly connection that was previously impeded. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, orchestrates circumstances that favor this reunion, creating opportunities for old wounds to be healed and interrupted relationships to fully blossom. But have you ever noticed signs that a special soul is trying to return to your family? What are these subtle signs the universe sends us? These reunions can manifest through various mechanisms, from a new pregnancy in the same family to the adoption of a child who carries energetic characteristics familiar to the previously interrupted soul. Cayce observed that many mothers report inexplicable feelings of familiarity when they meet certain children, accompanied by an intense emotional attraction that seems to arise from a source much deeper than ordinary sympathy. These experiences often include premonitory dreams in which the mother sees or interacts with a specific child before even physically meeting them, suggesting that the spiritual connection was already being established on the subtle planes of existence. Signs of this imminent reunion can include numerological synchronicities, such as recurring significant dates or symbols that appeared in dreams related to the interrupted pregnancy and now reappear in the woman's life. The soul, determined to return, uses every available resource to communicate its intention and pave the way for its new attempt at incarnation. The process of mutual recognition between the mother and the returning soul often develops gradually, through a series of emotional and spiritual experiences that gradually confirm the identity of the consciousness involved. Cayce described how some mothers experience an immediate and undeniable sense of knowing a specific child, accompanied by a wave of emotions that can include profound relief, inexplicable joy, and even tears of recognition. Other women experience a more subtle process of discovery, where small details of the child's behavior, personality, or even physical appearance evoke memories or sensations related to the previous abortion experience. These confirmations may manifest through specific physical characteristics that the mother had imagined or dreamed about during the terminated pregnancy, or through unique personality traits that seem to echo the energy of the soul that previously attempted to incarnate. The complete recognition of this connection often brings a profound sense of completeness and resolution that can heal emotional wounds that have lingered for years. The family dynamics that emerge during these reunions often include significant changes in relationships between all family members, creating opportunities for collective healing and shared spiritual growth. Cayce observed that other children in the family may demonstrate a natural and immediate acceptance of the returning child, as if intuitively recognizing the presence of a spiritual sibling who has finally reached them. Parents and partners who were involved in the original abortion decision may experience their own journey of recognition and reconciliation, finding in the arrival of the returning soul an opportunity to heal feelings of guilt or regret they may have carried for years. The family as a whole benefits from the energy of completeness and resolution that accompanies these reunions, often reporting a sense that something important has finally fallen into place. This restored family harmony serves as tangible evidence of the reality of the spiritual bonds that connect souls through multiple life experiences. The nature of the relationship that develops between the mother and the returning child often possesses special qualities that distinguish this connection from other conventional family relationships. Cayce revealed that these pairs often develop an exceptional emotional and spiritual intimacy, characterized by a mutual understanding that transcends the typical limitations of verbal communication. The mother may discover that she possesses an unusual intuitive ability to understand the child's needs and feelings, while the child demonstrates a special trust and connection with the mother that seems to have existed since birth. These special characteristics of the relationship serve as further confirmation of the spiritual nature of the connection and offer unique opportunities for both consciousnesses to heal and transcend any residual trauma from the previous experience. The intensity and beauty of these relationships often inspire the entire family to develop a deeper understanding of the eternal nature of life and the importance of unconditional love in the soul's journey. The transformative impact of these reunions extends far beyond the healing of individual wounds, often catalyzing a complete revolution in the spiritual understanding and life priorities of all involved. Cayce observed that families who experience these spiritual returns often develop a deeper faith in the continuity of life after physical death, and a greater appreciation for the sacred nature of all human relationships. The mother who reunites with her lost soul often becomes a passionate advocate for the importance of spiritual life and may dedicate some of her energy to helping other women who have gone through similar experiences. The returned child, growing up in an environment that recognizes and honors their unique spiritual journey, often develops special qualities of wisdom, compassion, and spiritual connection that contribute positively to their community. These stories serve as beacons of hope for other families who may be dealing with similar losses, demonstrating that true love transcends all barriers and that genuine connections between souls are never permanently lost. The spiritual universe operates according to principles of infinite compassion that ensure that no soul, regardless of the circumstances of its journey, is abandoned to its fate during moments of crisis and transition. Cayce revealed the existence of a complex hierarchy of beings of light, specialized in caring for consciousnesses that have experienced traumatic interruptions in their reincarnation journey, including spiritual mentors, angelic guides, and cosmic instructors who dedicate their existence to alleviating suffering and promoting spiritual healing. These beings possess a profound understanding of the dynamics involved in the incarnation process and are uniquely equipped to offer exactly the kind of support each soul needs during its recovery. The intervention of these celestial helpers does not happen by chance, but rather as a result of a spiritual response system that is automatically activated whenever a consciousness experiences significant trauma or disorientation. Their presence offers not only emotional comfort, but also practical guidance on how to process the experience and prepare for future opportunities for growth and spiritual service. The specialized nature of the work performed by these beings of light reflects the unique complexity of the challenges faced by souls whose incarnations were interrupted, requiring a therapeutic approach that integrates emotional healing, spiritual reorientation, and preparation for future earthly experiences. Cayce described how each traumatized soul is immediately enveloped in an aura of unconditional love that serves as the first step in the healing process, gradually dissolving the layers of pain, confusion, and resistance that may have accumulated during the abortion experience. Specialized mentors utilize telepathic communication techniques that transcend the limitations of human language, directly transmitting understanding, acceptance, and wisdom that help the soul develop a broader perspective on its experience. This direct communication process eliminates any possibility of misunderstanding or misinterpretation, ensuring that the soul receives precisely the information and support it needs to begin its journey of recovery. The effectiveness of these spiritual therapeutic methods demonstrates the sophistication and compassion that characterize the higher dimensions of existence. The environment where this healing work takes place is carefully designed to promote maximum comfort and spiritual well-being, incorporating elements that resonate with the specific needs of each individual soul. Cayce spoke of astral gardens of indescribable beauty, where the very nature of the space promotes healing and renewal, with colors that vibrate at therapeutic frequencies and sounds that induce deep states of peace and relaxation. These environments are dynamically adjusted to reflect each soul's preferences and positive associations, creating a personalized space that facilitates emotional and spiritual recovery. Some souls may find comfort in landscapes that recall special places from past lives, while others respond better to completely new environments that represent future possibilities for experience and growth. The flexibility of these healing spaces demonstrates the individual attention each consciousness receives, ensuring that no aspect of their specific needs is neglected during the recovery and reorientation process. The methodology employed by these spiritual healers includes advanced energy work techniques aimed at restoring the soul's vibrational balance and dissolving any distortions or blockages that may have resulted from the traumatic experience. Cayce explained that the trauma of abortion can create energetic knots in the subtle structure of consciousness, interfering with its natural ability to flow harmoniously through the dimensions of existence. Beings of light use their own purified energetic emanations to gently dissolve these obstructions, restoring the soul to its natural state of fluidity and spiritual vitality. This energy work is complemented by spiritual counseling sessions where the soul is encouraged to express its feelings and concerns, receiving wise guidance on how to constructively integrate the experience into its evolutionary journey. The process is completely respectful of the soul's free will, allowing it to determine the pace and depth of its own healing, while offering constant and unconditional support throughout. The qualifications and experience of these celestial mentors encompass not only technical knowledge of spiritual healing, but also a deep empathic understanding derived from their own journeys through similar challenges during their previous lifetimes. Cayce revealed that many of these beings of light have experienced disruption, loss, or trauma themselves during their incarnations, developing through these experiences a unique ability to understand and relate to the suffering of other consciousnesses. This personal experience with similar difficulties allows them to offer not only healing techniques, but also an empathic presence that validates and honors the pain of the traumatized soul. They are able to communicate through their own example that recovery is not only possible, but also an opportunity to develop higher spiritual qualities such as compassion, wisdom, and resilience. This living demonstration that it is possible to transcend trauma and transform it into wisdom offers powerful hope and inspiration to souls who may be struggling to find meaning in their experience. The support system offered by these beings of light extends far beyond the immediate recovery period, including long-term follow-up and careful preparation for future incarnation opportunities. Cayce observed that the relationship between the soul and its spiritual mentors often develops into a deep and lasting friendship that continues through multiple life experiences, offering a constant source of guidance and support during all future challenges. These guides help the soul identify important lessons that emerge from its abortion experience, assisting it in integrating this wisdom into its plans for future incarnations. They also work collaboratively with the soul to identify the ideal time and most favorable circumstances for a new incarnation attempt, ensuring that all the necessary conditions for success are aligned before beginning the process again. This careful and thorough approach demonstrates the beings of light's commitment to the long-term well-being of each soul in their care, ensuring that traumatic experiences are transformed into solid foundations for future growth and success. The dream world serves as a dimensional bridge where the barriers between the physical and spiritual planes become porous, allowing direct communication between consciousnesses in different states of existence. Cayce revealed that dreams represent much more than simple creations of the subconscious mind, functioning as active portals through which disembodied souls can establish contact with those who remained on the earthly plane. In the specific context of abortion, these dream encounters take on special importance, as they offer the interrupted soul one of the few opportunities available to communicate directly with the mother and express feelings that would otherwise remain trapped in the subtle dimensions of existence. The symbolic and emotive nature of dreams provides an ideal medium for conveying complex messages that transcend the limitations of verbal language, allowing profound concepts of love, forgiveness, and spiritual continuity to be communicated through images, sensations, and direct experiences. These dream visits do not happen by chance, but rather as a result of a conscious and determined effort by the soul to seek connection and resolution with those who were part of its traumatic experience. The frequency and intensity of these dream encounters tend to vary significantly depending on several factors, including the mother's level of psychic sensitivity, the intensity of the emotional connection established during pregnancy, and the degree of communicative need felt by the interrupted soul. Cayce observed that women who are naturally more open to the spiritual plane often experience more vivid and memorable dream visits, while those with more materialistic tendencies may receive more subtle messages that require greater attention and interpretation to be properly understood. The visiting soul adapts its form of communication to each mother's specific receptive capacities, using symbols, metaphors, and experiences that resonate with the woman's cultural, religious, and personal background. Some dreams may present the child at different ages, from infant to adolescent or young adult, offering the mother glimpses of how this soul might have developed had it had the opportunity to complete its incarnation. These variations in dream presentation serve different therapeutic purposes, from offering solace and closure to inspiring hope for future reunions. The emotional content of these dreams often reflects the stages of the healing process for both the mother and the visiting soul, gradually evolving from messages of pain and confusion to communications of love, understanding, and eventual peace. Cayce explained that the first dreams after an abortion can carry intense feelings of sadness, abandonment, or even accusation, reflecting the turbulent emotional state of the soul as it processes its traumatic experience. As time passes and spiritual healing progresses, the tone of these dream encounters tends to become more peaceful and loving, with the soul demonstrating growing understanding of the circumstances that led to its termination and expressing genuine forgiveness toward all involved. Mothers often report dreams in which they receive warm embraces from their unborn children, accompanied by telepathic messages of unconditional love and reassurance that there is no resentment or guilt to carry. These moments of dream reconciliation can be profoundly transformative, offering emotional healing that may have seemed impossible to achieve through conventional means. The symbolic language used in these dream communications often incorporates elements that have special personal meaning for the mother, demonstrating that the visiting soul maintains access to memories and associations established during the gestational connection. Cayce observed that specific flowers the mother loved, songs she used to sing during pregnancy, or places that held special emotional significance can appear in dreams as confirmations of the communicating soul's identity. Some women report recurring dreams in which they play with their children in paradisiacal gardens, symbolically representing the soul's state of well-being and happiness on the spiritual plane. Others receive symbolic gifts in their dreams, such as flowers, jewelry, or books, that carry specific messages about forgiveness, spiritual growth, or promises of future reunions. The richness and specificity of these symbols serves as further evidence that these experiences transcend mere subconscious mental activity, representing true interdimensional communications between consciousnesses separated by different states of existence. Validation of the authenticity of these dream encounters often comes through informational elements that the mother could not have learned through conventional means, including details about the soul's experience in the spiritual realm or information about future events that are later confirmed in physical reality. Cayce reported cases where mothers received in dreams specific descriptions of the healing environments where their souls were being cared for, including details about spiritual mentors, other beings who shared similar experiences, and even insights into the soul's plans for future incarnation attempts. Some women received warnings through dreams about future pregnancies, including information about optimal timing, health considerations, or even indications that the same soul would attempt to return through a new conception. The accuracy of this predictive information, when later confirmed by actual events, offers compelling evidence that these dream communications represent genuine contacts with discarnate consciousnesses that have access to information and perspectives not available on the physical plane. This empirical validation helps mothers develop confidence in the reality of their spiritual communication and the continued connection with their unborn souls. The therapeutic impact of these dream encounters often extends far beyond immediate emotional relief, catalyzing profound transformations in the mother's spiritual understanding and life priorities. Cayce observed that women who experience regular dream communications with their interrupted souls often develop a more robust faith in the continuity of life after physical death and a deeper appreciation for the interconnected nature of all existences. These experiences can inspire significant lifestyle changes, including greater dedication to spiritual practices, the development of psychic abilities, or even career shifts toward fields involving spiritual healing or counseling for other women in similar situations. The emotional and spiritual richness of these dream encounters often compensates, at least partially, for the loss experienced on the physical plane, offering an alternative form of maternal relationship that honors both the mother's and the soul's needs. This creative adaptation to the limitations imposed by circumstances demonstrates the flexibility and resilience of true love, which finds ways to express itself even when conventional channels of communication are unavailable. Cayce's perspective on abortion transcends merely personal or familial issues, extending to a broader understanding of how these individual decisions create ripples of consequences that reverberate throughout the entire social and spiritual fabric of humanity. Each soul-seeking incarnation carries with it unique potentials carefully developed, through multiple previous existences, including artistic talents, scientific abilities, leadership capabilities, and spiritual gifts that could significantly contribute to the progress and evolution of human society. When these opportunities for manifestation are interrupted through abortion, humanity as a whole experiences a subtle but real loss of spiritual and creative resources that could have been instrumental in solving global problems, advancing knowledge, or raising collective consciousness. Cayce observed that some of the most evolved and gifted souls often choose to incarnate in challenging circumstances as a way to maximize their transformative impact, meaning that unexpected or inconvenient pregnancies can, paradoxically, represent lost opportunities to receive great spiritual gifts. This perspective is not intended to create guilt or judgment, but rather to broaden our understanding of the complex interconnections that exist between individual choices and the collective destiny of humanity. The cumulative nature of these social impacts becomes more evident when we consider that each generation builds on the contributions and achievements of previous generations, creating an evolutionary progression that depends on the presence and active participation of all consciousnesses destined to incarnate during specific periods of human history. Cayce revealed that there is a carefully orchestrated cosmic synchronization that ensures that the right souls are present at the appropriate historical moments to catalyze important advances or facilitate crucial evolutionary transitions. When this synchronization is disrupted through large-scale reincarnational disruptions, it can result in significant delays in human progress or the loss of critical opportunities for evolutionary leaps that could benefit the entire species. These delays can manifest as stagnation in specific fields of knowledge, persistent difficulties in solving complex social problems, or a general sense that humanity is not reaching its full potential. The absence of specific voices that should have contributed to the human dialogue creates gaps in collective development that may take generations to be adequately filled by other consciousnesses with similar missions. The energetic impact of abortion on the collective consciousness also operates at more subtle levels, contributing to patterns of thought and emotion that influence the general psychic atmosphere of society. Cayce explained that each reincarnational interruption releases waves of trauma, sadness, and disorientation that propagate through the human morphogenetic field, contributing to a general increase in the levels of anxiety, depression, and alienation experienced by the population as a whole. This collective emotional contamination can manifest itself through social phenomena, such as increased suicide rates, domestic violence, substance abuse, and other self-destructive behaviors that reflect a loss of hope and purpose in life. The accumulation of these effects over time can create a social atmosphere where it is more difficult for individuals to find meaning and direction in their lives, perpetuating cycles of dysfunction that affect entire families and communities. This perspective suggests that effective social healing programs must include components that address not only the superficial symptoms of social problems, but also the deeper spiritual causes that may be contributing to the deterioration of collective well-being. The economic dimension of these impacts also deserves careful consideration, as each soul interrupted represents not only a loss of human potential, but also a reduction in the future workforce, society's innovative capacity, and the contributory base that sustains complex social and economic systems. Cayce observed that some of the most creative and enterprising souls often choose birth circumstances that may seem unfavorable at first glance, but which in reality offer unique opportunities to develop resilience, creativity, and determination that later translate into extraordinary contributions to society. The loss of these potential contributions can result in less dynamic economies, lower rates of technological innovation, and a reduced capacity to adapt to emerging challenges such as climate change, resource scarcity, or rapid social transformations. This economic perspective should not be interpreted as a purely materialistic argument, but rather as a recognition that humanity's spiritual and material well-being are inextricably interconnected, and that decisions that affect one aspect inevitably influence the other. Understanding these interconnections can help societies develop more holistic policies that consider both the spiritual and material costs of different social choices. The cultural and artistic ramifications of the loss of creative potential through abortion represent another significant aspect of the broader social impact, as art, literature, music, and other forms of creative expression serve as primary vehicles through which human consciousness explores and expands its evolutionary boundaries. Cayce revealed that many highly evolved souls choose to incarnate specifically to contribute to humanity's cultural development, bringing inspirations and perspectives from higher dimensions that help elevate the collective understanding of the nature of reality and the purpose of existence. When these cultural contributions are lost through reincarnational interruptions, humanity is deprived of works of art, scientific discoveries, groundbreaking philosophies, and spiritual movements that could have significantly accelerated its conscious evolution. This cultural loss is particularly tragic because many of these potential contributions are unique and irreplaceable, reflecting the individual perspective and specific development of each soul through its multiple incarnations. The absence of these creative voices leaves gaps in human cultural dialogue that may never be completely filled, resulting in a collective cultural expression that is less rich, diverse, and inspiring than it could have been. Understanding these broader social impacts should not be used to create additional guilt or moral judgment, but rather to develop a deeper appreciation of the collective responsibility we all share for the spiritual and material well-being of our species. Cayce emphasized that the solution to these challenges lies not in condemning or restricting individual choices, but rather in raising collective consciousness through spiritual education, the development of compassion, and the creation of social structures that support all forms of life and human potential. Societies that recognize the sacred nature of each soul and actively work to create conditions where all consciousnesses can flourish and contribute their unique gifts will naturally experience lower rates of reincarnational disruption and greater levels of spiritual and material prosperity. This preventative approach, focused on creating a culture of life and support, represents a more constructive and effective way to address these complex issues than strategies based on restriction or moral judgment. The goal must always be to create a world where every soul feels welcomed, valued, and supported in their journey of growth and contribution to the greater good of humanity. The most profound revelation brought by Cayce's teachings on abortion lies in the recognition that this experience, painful as it may be, serves as a powerful demonstration of the indestructible and eternal nature of the human soul. When confronted with the apparent death or destruction of a potential life, we are forced to examine our most fundamental beliefs about the nature of existence and question whether spiritual life is truly as fragile as our physical experience suggests. Cayce revealed that abortion, far from representing the definitive end of a consciousness, actually demonstrates the impossibility of truly destroying or nullifying a soul, which continues to exist, learning, and evolving regardless of the limitations imposed by the physical experience. This understanding radically transforms our perspective on life and death, revealing that we are much more than our physical bodies, and that our existence transcends any specific event that may occur during our earthly journey. The soul not only survives abortion, but uses this experience as a catalyst for spiritual growth that can significantly accelerate its evolution across multiple dimensions of existence. This fundamental lesson on the eternity of consciousness offers profound consolation to those struggling with guilt or regret, while inspiring a greater reverence for the sacred nature of all spiritual life. The process through which this lesson unfolds often requires us to go through intense periods of questioning, doubt, and eventual transformation of our understanding of the nature of reality and our place within it. Cayce observed that individuals who directly encounter the experience of abortion are uniquely positioned to develop spiritual insights that may not be available through more conventional paths of personal growth. The emotional intensity and psychological trauma associated with this experience create an opening in consciousness that allows direct access to spiritual truths that normally remain hidden behind the distractions and concerns of everyday life. This forced openness may initially seem like a curse, but gradually reveals itself as a blessing in disguise, offering unique opportunities for spiritual understanding and growth. Many people report that their experiences with abortion, though painful, eventually became fundamental turning points in their spiritual journeys, catalyzing profound transformations in their beliefs, values, and life priorities. This spiritual metamorphosis demonstrates the human soul's ability to find meaning and purpose, even in the most challenging experiences, transforming suffering into wisdom and trauma into evolutionary growth. The paradoxical nature of this lesson lies in the fact that a seemingly destructive experience can become a source of deeper understanding about the constructive and creative nature of the spiritual universe. Cayce taught that the cosmos operates according to principles of infinite love and wisdom that ensure that every experience, no matter how difficult it may seem, serves a greater purpose of growth and evolution for all consciousnesses involved. Abortion, when understood from this broader perspective, reveals itself not as a violation of cosmic laws, but rather as an expression of the complex dynamics that govern spiritual evolution in a universe where free will coexists with divine guidance. This understanding requires a level of spiritual maturity that can take years or even decades to fully develop, but once achieved, offers a profound peace that transcends the specific circumstances of the original experience. The soul learns that its journey is far greater and more complex than any individual event, and that each experience contributes to a broader pattern of growth that extends across multiple lives and dimensions. This expanded perspective allows individuals to develop a genuine acceptance of their past experiences, while maintaining hope and optimism about future possibilities for growth and contribution. The practical application of this lesson in everyday life often manifests itself through a fundamental transformation in how we approach challenges, losses, and apparent failures in all areas of our existence. Cayce observed that people who have truly understood and integrated the spiritual lessons of abortion often develop exceptional resilience and an ability to find meaning and purpose even in the most adverse circumstances. This inner strength does not arise from denial or minimization of pain, but rather from a profound understanding that every experience has evolutionary value, and that our capacity to grow and learn transcends any external limitation. This transformed perspective becomes a source of personal power that allows us to face future challenges with greater confidence and equanimity, knowing that our spiritual essence is indestructible and that each experience contributes to our continued evolution. The wisdom gained through this understanding often translates into greater compassion for others facing similar difficulties, creating opportunities to serve and support others on their own journeys of healing and growth. This natural expansion of compassion and the desire to serve represents one of the most beautiful fruits of authentic spiritual growth, demonstrating how personal experiences of suffering can be transformed into sources of light and inspiration for the entire human community. Recognizing the eternity of the soul also reveals the illusory nature of many of the fears and anxieties that dominate human experience, offering a solid foundation for developing greater courage and confidence in life. Cayce taught that when we truly understand that our existence cannot be threatened by external events, we develop an inner freedom that allows us to live with greater authenticity and purpose. This release from the fear of annihilation allows us to make choices based on love and wisdom rather than anxiety and insecurity, creating a life more aligned with our deepest values and our authentic spiritual mission. The experience of abortion, by forcing a direct confrontation with issues of life and death, can accelerate this process of releasing fear, offering a direct demonstration that spiritual life transcends all physical appearances. This expanded understanding of the nature of existence often results in significant shifts in life priorities, with a greater focus on relationships, spiritual growth, and meaningful contributions to the well-being of others. Life becomes less about material accumulation or social status, and more about authenticity, love, and service, reflecting a more mature understanding of what truly matters in the soul's journey through earthly experience. Fully integrating this lesson requires not only intellectual understanding, but also a deep emotional acceptance that may involve a prolonged process of healing and reconciliation with all aspects of lived experience. Cayce emphasized that authentic spiritual growth occurs in layers, with each level of understanding revealing deeper aspects of truth that previously remained hidden. The process of fully absorbing the lessons of abortion can involve multiple cycles of insight, integration, and eventual transcendence, each bringing greater clarity and inner peace. This journey of progressive understanding demonstrates the infinite patience and compassion of the spiritual universe, which allows each soul to advance at its own pace without pressure or judgment. The beauty of this process lies in the fact that each step of the journey brings its own rewards and blessings, ensuring that spiritual growth is an intrinsically satisfying experience rather than a distant goal to be achieved. This understanding of the rewarding nature of spiritual growth itself helps maintain motivation and hope during periods of challenge or apparent stagnation, reminding us that we are always progressing on our journey of consciousness evolution, even when that progress is not immediately visible or tangible. Forgiveness emerges as the most powerful transformative force capable of dissolving the energetic currents of pain, guilt, and resentment that keep both the mother and the interrupted soul trapped in cycles of suffering that can persist across multiple dimensions of existence. Cayce revealed that true forgiveness transcends mere intellectual absolution, representing a profound spiritual alchemy that transmutes dense trauma energy into the pure light of understanding and unconditional love. This process of authentic forgiveness requires extraordinary courage, as it demands that we directly confront all the layers of pain, anger, and disappointment that may have accumulated around the abortion experience, without seeking justifications or rationalizations that diminish the true intensity of the feelings involved. The journey toward true forgiveness often passes through stages of denial, anger, bargaining, and sadness before reaching genuine acceptance, echoing the natural grief processing patterns that characterize all forms of significant loss. The path to reconciliation also requires developing an expanded understanding that recognizes the complex circumstances, pressures, and limitations that contributed to the original abortion decision, allowing both the mother and the soul involved to develop compassion for all the consciousnesses that participated in this challenging experience. Cayce taught that conscious rituals of spiritual communication can greatly facilitate this process, creating sacred spaces where pent-up feelings can be safely expressed and where sincere requests for forgiveness can be offered and received. These practices may include periods of contemplative meditation where the mother consciously opens herself to receive communications from the interrupted soul, automatic writing sessions where messages can flow directly from the spiritual dimension, or ritual ceremonies that honor both the life that was interrupted and the healing journey being undertaken. The effectiveness of these methods lies not in their specific form, but in the sincerity of intention and the genuine openness to receive and offer unconditional love to all parties involved in the traumatic experience. The most profound transformation occurs when forgiveness extends beyond those directly involved in the abortion, to include a broader reconciliation with the cosmic forces, social circumstances, and human limitations that created the context in which this decision became necessary or inevitable. This expansion of forgiveness represents a mature recognition that human suffering often emerges from complex systems of causation that transcend individual responsibility, including economic pressures, educational limitations, generational traumas, and cultural conditioning that may have made more desirable alternatives seem impossible or impractical at the time of the decision. Cayce observed that this expanded level of forgiveness liberates not only those directly involved, but also contributes to the healing of broader karmic patterns that may have affected families and communities across multiple generations. True reconciliation, therefore, becomes an act of service not only to oneself and the interrupted soul, but to the entire network of relationships and influences that contributed to the original situation, creating waves of healing that propagate through time and space to benefit consciousnesses that may not even be directly aware of their participation in this transformation process. The journey of reconciliation often reveals that both the mother and the interrupted soul were serving greater spiritual purposes through their shared experience, even if these purposes were not conscious or intentional at the time the original events unfolded. Cayce taught that many seemingly tragic experiences actually represent pre-incarnation soul agreements, where evolved consciousnesses voluntarily accept participation in challenging situations as a way to accelerate their spiritual growth and contribute to the evolution of other souls in their karmic network. This perspective does not minimize the reality of the pain or trauma experienced, but offers a broader context that can facilitate the development of meaning and purpose from experiences that initially seemed meaningless or purely destructive. Recognizing these deeper spiritual agreements can release tremendous amounts of energy that were previously trapped in patterns of blame and self-recrimination, allowing that energy to be redirected toward more constructive activities such as personal healing, compassionate service to others, or the development of spiritual wisdom that can benefit future generations.